You know something, one of the big reasons I started this channel is because I really do wish that somebody had this type of channel when I was trying to get into my PhD program, when I was in my PhD program, and when I finished my PhD program. There's so much out there that is untold about this path that so many of us take. And so I really wanted to create content that you would find helpful. Now, one of the things that is happening on this channel is that so many of you are watching, and I even see some of you liking, but a lot of you do not comment or say anything. And so in today's video, I'm going to ask of you that, I bring you this content free of charge. Nobody pays me to make this content. I don't really have sponsors on this channel. I bring it to you free. So maybe you and I can make an agreement that you will say something on this video today. And today, here's what I want you to say. Comment below and let me know if you find the videos on this channel helpful. And if there's a particular video that you've watched on this channel that has been extremely helpful, let me know in the comments below. Okay, it really does help with the algorithm. And so I really do need you to comment. All right. Okay. So let's jump into today's topic. So today I'm talking about 7 things that I wish somebody would have told me before I finished my PhD. Now, if you have followed along with my story, or maybe you haven't, I finished my PhD in 2015 in microbiology and immunology. I started a postdoc. I actually moved across the country from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States to start a postdoc. Quickly realized how expensive things were, and my postdoc salary wasn't matching that. And then about almost 3 years into my postdoc, we were all let go because funding had run out, and I struggled for almost 2 years to find a new position. And it's from that place, okay, from all these experiences that I make these videos. And one of the things that I wish somebody would have told me before I finished my PhD is to build your network. Now, I know one day I posted on LinkedIn about networking, and there were so many comments that said, oh, I don't like networking, can feel sleazy. Oh, I don't like that I have to talk to people just so I can get a job. And so there is this stigma with networking that you have to schmooze and you have to, talk to people you don't like. But I'd like to redefine networking, right? Networking doesn't have to feel forced, and you don't have to talk to anybody that you don't want to talk to. But I really do think that you need to form relationships, even just, getting to know people who are in your PhD program, getting to know people when you go to conferences, like the people that show up, the salespeople that may show up, especially for those of you in the biomedical sciences, because that's my experience. You have people that show up in the lab to sell stuff, the salespeople, right? You go to vendor events, like talk to people, take people's cards, stay in touch with them. You can connect with them on LinkedIn and so on and so forth. When you consistently do this, right, throughout your PhD program, what's going to happen is that by the time you're done with your PhD, you would have amassed, I don't like that word very much, but you would have collected, right, a group of people around you who could potentially support you in finding your next position. I remember I was talking to these scientists in my group, and they both have bachelor's degrees, and I did a video sharing some of what they shared with me on how to get a research position in biotech. And one of the things that they talked about was their networks being so helpful, right? And so building that network from now is going to be helpful. The other thing that is related to this is that so many of us, especially for those of us that are super, we've been super into our books all our lives, right? We've been sold the myth that if you get a high GPA and if you get good grades, then when you finish, the world is just going to open up to you. And that's the next thing I want to say. I wish somebody had told me. I had a 3.83 GPA by the time I graduated college. I'm very, very proud of that. I mostly got A's and B's. The only C I got, which brought my GPA down, was in cell biology. And because of that, I did not want to touch cell biology. Okay, but yes, I had good grades all throughout college. I did very well in my PhD, but none of these things were the thing that employers were looking for when I started looking for jobs. So yes, get the good grades. If you're watching this and let's say you're an undergrad, get the good grades, do everything, do it, right? But remember that that's not what's going to impress employers. Also, if you are in academia, then maybe you've been told publish papers and do all this work, and people will just look at your work and they'll admire it. It's not true. None of it is true. So I find that, especially if you're trying to get a job in academia, then okay, all of those things are super impressive because it's an academic system, and that's what the academic system grades everybody on: good grades and lots of papers, right? But if you are planning on working outside of academia, while those things are definitely impressive, they do not really factor into decision making. What you'll find outside of academia is people want to see that you have experience. You have particular experience that helps them solve a business problem. If you can show that, then yes, you will be invited in very, very happily. But if you are unable to show that, then it becomes a challenging situation to deal with. Being open to new experiences wherever you find yourself is going to be crucial, right? Once you are done with school. I find that I wish I had learned more coding whilst I was doing my PhD. I had a little bit more time, so I feel like I could have done that at that time. There are a few things like that. I'm not lacking or anything because I don't have coding experience, but whatever experience you're gathering now, see it as, oh, this could be something that helps me land a job someday. Let me clarify what I mean. So when we're going through our PhDs, we gather all these skills, like you know how to prepare PowerPoint presentation, you know how to make oral presentations, you know how to read papers and synthesize the data, right? You know how to search for information, you know how to use a particular tool like Prism, or you know how to use R, right? So all of these skills are so important that you cherish and that you sometimes even document, I find, because when you start looking for positions and you start looking for careers, right, you may think, oh, my skill of oral presentations or PowerPoint, or even I did this video this one time, that's not important. But you may be very, very surprised. In my current role right now, yes, my degree in microbiology and immunology was helpful and actually was listed as a requirement for the job. But one of the reasons I believe that I got this position is because I had a lot of content experience. I had written a lot of content. Now, I had a job before this that was content writing, medical writing, science writing / science writing, right? I had all of that. But because I had been building that consistently, because I had that experience, and because I could use PowerPoint, I always make that joke that because I could use PowerPoint, right, I got this job, right? So don't discount any of the skills that you're picking up. It's not just your knowledge in that particular thing, in that particular, in your academic field. That's not always the thing that people are looking for. People may really be looking for all these other skills that you picked up along the way. The other thing I wish somebody would have told me is it's not how many job applications you put out there. I know at a certain point, these days I don't see it, but at a certain point, I remember there were people that were like, just like apply for like 100 jobs. So they'll just like click, apply. And especially when you're using tools like LinkedIn or Indeed, there's always the easy apply button. So you upload one resume, then you apply to all these jobs using that one resume. Please don't do that. Please do not do that. And related to that, right, is the fact that it's really important that you read job descriptions. When you encounter a job description, I don't want you to just skim past that. Don't just skim past that. Trust me, the words in that job description are there for a reason. They are very seldom just randomly chosen words thrown together and put into a job description, right? So take 5 minutes. I'm telling you, so many of us can read those job descriptions in less than 5 minutes and see what it is that they're looking for. And I've said before in some of my other videos that every time you read a job description, right, think of that job description as somebody asking you, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do that? Right? And then your resume and cover letter are going to be the documents that answer those questions that say, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. There are many times I've had to review the resumes of academics trying to get, for instance, into medical communications like I am. And I'm like, okay, this is all impressive, but the fact that you attended seminars has no bearing on this position you're trying to get. So take that out. The fact that sometimes even our publications, like I've had people complain to me and say, hey, I have publications. How come these companies will not give me an opportunity to become a medical writer? And I'm always like, because medical and science writing is not always the same as academic writing. Yes, in some types of these positions and some types of writer positions, your academic writing may actually be a plus. But in most that I know, that's not the type of writing they're looking for. They're looking for people that can write application notes and white papers and, and do videos and all of these things. But there's nothing on your resume that shows you can do these things. And so they're going to pass you by, even though you have incredible credentials. So don't just take one resume and think that people are going to be, again, don't think that people are going to just be impressed with your work, with your GPA, with your degrees. Those things are important, but again, people want to really see your skills. I say this so often, and I don't know how to stress it. I don't know how to stress it so that people get it, but I see it all the time. Like brilliant academics, and they're giving me a resume, and I'm like, this is what you're not getting. There's nothing on your resume that shows me that you actually want this type of job. All you've done is list accomplishments, and there's no bearing. People don't, let me tell you something. All these recruiters and employers out there, I think I was reading a statistic the other day that they have like 7 to 10 seconds to skim that resume and then move on to the next one. They're getting hundreds of applications. The way you stand out is when you really, really do address those job descriptions, right? And so, I mean, that's all I can say. You just increase your chances of getting the role if you address the job descriptions. So don't ignore them. Building a personal brand for your career. Now, this is a topic that I've gotten invited the most to speak about to academics in different settings. And I absolutely love this topic of personal branding. Now, sometimes when people think of personal branding, their mind goes to, oh, should I like an influencer, kind of like an influencer, that's so cringy. But no, that's not really what it is. A personal brand is simply a reputation, your curated reputation that you put out there for people to see, for people to perceive, in order for them, right, to make decisions about you. Right now, I know, like, oh, people should like take me as I am. Oh, and I'm not. Yeah. Okay, let's get back to I'm not saying that don't do that, right? But you don't want people to simply make assumptions about you. You want people to see who you are, what you offer, what you can potentially do, and why that's important to them, right? Building my personal brand has helped me get positions, help me get referrals without me asking, help me get invited to speak, help and paid to speak, helped me get on podcasts that I used to just like look at from afar and wonder, wow, that's amazing. I got invited to be on those podcasts. And I would have not been able to do any of those things if I didn't build a personal brand for myself. Now, there is a really good podcast I listened to recently by the Harvard Business Review, and they were talking about personal branding. And there's a lot of misconception and misunderstanding around it. And maybe let me know in the comments, guys, if you want me to make a whole video about personal branding as an academic, and I will make it. Let me know. But building a personal brand, I wish I knew that earlier, because if I had done that earlier, I feel like I could have put my best foot forward and people would have learned more about me before I even like tried to apply for a job, to be honest. It's a broad topic and I don't want to bore you with it, but I really wish somebody would have told me to build my personal brand. And then I want to add this, that I wish somebody would have told me not to give up. Now, I didn't give up, right? I told you at the beginning of this video that I lost my job as a postdoc. I struggled for several years to find a job, right? A job that could pay me well. And it was a difficult learning experience, right? And there were many times I wanted to give up. Many times when I was like, this is not like, why? How come I have a PhD and I'm struggling? And it's a lot of the things I've mentioned in this video. Number one, I was making a mistake of just kind of throwing my resume out there without, really addressing what they were looking for, and so on and so forth. So I made a lot of the mistakes I'm sharing with you today. That's why I'm sharing it with you. But importantly, it's really important that you don't give up. Life will try to beat the meat out of you. And I was in that place. Not everybody experiences that. And sometimes I've shared that in the past and people have been like, oh, it's not really that hard out there. Oh, you're just making these things up. And okay, fine. Fair enough. Not everybody goes through that. Some people have it smooth sailing and it's wonderful. They figured it out. It took me a while to figure it out. And maybe you are the same way. And that's why I make these videos. Maybe you're my people, right? But when you find that you're applying for roles and things are still not, working out the way that you hope, I hope that you remember that I said not to give up. It may mean you need to talk to someone, get therapy, take a break, take a walk, take a day off. It may mean all of these things, but surely, do not give up. There is light at the end of the tunnel, even though you may be experiencing some really discouraging times right now.